Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Right, so I have just finished exploring variant 7 and I do plan to make a feedback video because I do have quite a lot of things to say about variant 7. However, the purpose of this video is it is going to be my best attempt to guide you guys through variant 7 for the initial completion the best I can, as effective as I can, so you have a straightforward, simple time, hopefully saving some items and resources. Right, that being said, starting tomorrow, I will upload full-on exploration videos about Chapter 1, 2, and 3 separately, each day consecutively. And if you are planning going straight away exploring this piece of content, then yeah, be aware that the guides are coming. Right, I'm just going to jump to this screen over here, and we're going to start with quest number 1.1. So Chapter 1 is Mutant and Mystic Champion chapter. The first quest looks like this. There are only 3 paths. One on the left side with Elsa as the first fight, then Black Widow in the middle, and Crossbones on the right side. I would say that the path on the right side is probably I'm not going to say hardest, but less easy than the other 2 ones are. And the easiest path is probably the one in the middle with bleed vulnerability, poison vulnerability, bloodletting, and all that other good stuff. And the opponents then are fairly straightforward as well. Now, I do believe that probably the best option there is Archangel. That's what everybody used, and it absolutely tore through. You can literally finish the fights in like 3-4 heavy attacks. But other than that, you can definitely use Wolverine or pretty much any mutant champion that has access to poison, that has access to bleed. You're going to have a great time. It's a very, very simple start of this entire thing. Now, alternatively, you can go to the left side, which is basically like a mutant path where mutants get 125% attack increase. You do have to work around 100% power gain on opponents and the resistor node, but it's also fairly straightforward. My personal recommendation definitely is the path in the middle for initial completion. And the boss is Cyclops. Cyclops does whatever Cyclops does. It's very straightforward. Absolutely nothing tricky about this fight aside from unblockable special attacks, as we can see up top there. So as long as you can evade, Cyclops is level 1, you're going to have absolutely no problems. You can still use the same Archangel or whoever you please. He still has bleed vulnerability, he still has everything else on him, and there's not much to stress about. Now, quest number 2 has 4 paths. They are conveniently laid out, fairly straightforward. I actually like the look of this path design, especially because they kind of converge in the middle and they expand back out and lead to the boss. Now, if I would have to name the easiest path, I'd probably go with the one on the right side, where you have Mystic Wrath, Mutant Wrath, so you can bring in both class champions, which is quite rare, because for most of the path in this quest, you are only kind of quote-unquote meant to bring in one class of the champion, so this kind of opens up your roster a bit more. You do have to work around 50% Energize node and Buffet. However, with Despair Mastery being in game, with people having access to Archangel and or just having extra damage to outdamage the Buffet itself, it's very, very easy, very, very straightforward, absolutely nothing to worry about. On the lane itself, there is a Nihilist, but again, since this is like a Mystic and Mutant chapter, you can bring in Claire or any of the Mystic champions that has access to Nullify, just Nullify Nihilist's Cosmic Rod, and it's going to be a very easy, straightforward fight. Much easier than, let's say, Ebony Maw, which also wasn't like hard or anything, but analysis is just going to be more straightforward. And on top of that, then we have Wasp, which you can just parry heavy if worst comes to worst. So yeah, fairly easy as well. Very simple completion of chapter 1, I would say, overall. We do have the boss who has enhanced special 1, but remember with Spider-Man, the web hits that he shoots at you initially are blockable, and it's only the punches that are unblockable. Therefore, the best strategy is always just to block the web hits and dash out at the time that he's running close to you to punch you. So it's fairly straightforward to deal with it. Other than that, you just have the evade to deal with, and you can parry in heavy. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Then you don't have to worry about evade or bring in somebody who counters the evade, like Archangel, for example, once again. So yeah, it's needless to say, good old Archangel was one of the MVPs here. And I do believe that you can get very good results even using a 4-star champion. But that is it for chapter 1. Chapter 1 is very straightforward, very quick, absolutely no worries there. We can start up with chapter 2, and chapter 2 is going to be skill and tech champions. And 2.1 quest looks like this, still just the 4 path, so it's also fairly quick, breezy. It's not going to be too hard time exploring it, but we're talking about completion here. So which is the easiest path to do for completion? Well, I personally think if I had to pick one, it would be the path on the right side, because there's absolutely nothing that is actually hindering you in any capacity. You have the physical resistance, but in between tech and skill champions, you do have access to a plethora of damage over time effects, and then other two nodes just further enhance tech champions straight out of variant 3. These are kind of like the global nodes that we saw throughout variant 3. And yeah, you can use, I don't know, Warlock, you parry heavy, that doesn't care about physical resistance. You can use Hulkbuster, those were some of my MVPs for this entire chapter. Then obviously you can just bring in like Nick Fury or, I don't know, Elsa Bloodstone or whoever else you want to use. And the fights themselves are also fairly easy here. There's that is definitely a very straightforward path. The boss, however, I do believe this boss to be pretty much the hardest one of the entire variant. That's not to say that the boss is really extensively hard. What makes it annoying is this hard knock life, where every time you parry him, it puts a disorient on you, and disorient debuff on top of everything else uh, reduces your block proficiency. So if you do have a bunch of those, you end up taking a lot of block damage. And you also have this Rising Sun node, which is basically like a watered down, worse discount dollar store version of Icarus stack. And instead of degeneration debuffs, you have degeneration passives once you reach 10 Furies. And you can get rid of them by landing a heavy attack. However, in order to land a heavy attack, you will likely have to parry. Therefore, you end up taking a lot of block damage. And there are no perfect ways how to avoid it, I suppose. For most part, I just used either like Warlock and Hulkbuster and still kind of like went in with a single combo, stalled, dropped a heavy attack, things like that. Hulkbuster also, even though you do have class advantage, he has that extra sustainability with the armor ups, with the regen, and then at the very least, if you do get throw off your level 2 in his block, then you can go in for a bunch of heavy attack chains where you can get rid of Rising Sun. So Hulkbuster worked out quite well for me. On top of everything else, there is skill Wrath node. However, he also has shifting immunity to bleed and poison. So if you bring in like bleed champions, might not always be straightforward. A couple of times I did completely cheese the guy with Nick Fury. I just took all the damage from Rising Sun from everything else, and yeah, just went ham on the guy. But overall, I would say this probably is the most annoying boss that you kind of like want to be aware of. That pretty much no matter which champion you use, you are more than likely going to take a ton of block and chip damage because of that hard knock life and the fact that you will need to stall to prevent him from evading, basically. And yeah, and getting rid of that Rising Sun. So this is quite annoying boss, but my personal suggestions, once again, is Elsa, Nick Fury, Warlock, Hulkbuster worked out plenty fine, I suppose. If you manage to ramp up Aegon, I suppose that can work. And Falcon. Falcon is, I believe, the best counter. Now, I did not have a ranked up Falcon myself personally, but I believe Falcon completely bypasses the Rising Sun node. And that makes him the best counter for this boss, hands down. So if you have Falcon, you're probably going to enjoy this boss quite a bit. Let's move on to the next quest, and this is still tech and skill champions. All right, so this time we do have 5 paths in our way. We can see the way they are formed out here and all converge into a Spider-Gwen boss. Now, the easiest path, I'd probably say, is one of the 2 left side paths, because both of them have identical nodes. Once again, ripped out straight out of variant 3 for tech champions, and then opponents have Arc Overload. However, if you're bringing in tech champions, Arc Overload really doesn't matter, because majority of the tech champions have access to heal blocks and whatever else, Warlock's infections, so that basically means nothing. And then you just have the added benefits of tech champions increasing the debuff duration there. However, if you do not have, let's say, a good tech champion roster, if you don't have your Hulkbuster, if you don't have your Warlock ranked up, then the middle path also can be an option, which I'm going to get to in a second. Also wanted to note that there are exactly the same nodes on the first 2 left paths, so it's kind of like you can decide whether you want to face Havoc or Yellow Jacket pretty much. Other than that, it is all the same. There is Mephisto on that lane, and people say that you kind of want Guardian to face him, though that's not really true though. I think for most part, I just used either Hulkbuster or Warlock, and I just parried heavy. Then whenever he did trigger his Incinerate aura thing, I just backed away, and once it expired, parried heavy, and it worked out absolutely fantastic. There is also Abomination on top of the map, but again, if you're bringing in Tech Champion, there's a decent chance that you're going to have a poison immunity with you. And as I said, as an alternative, you can pick this middle lane, which is not limited to Tech Champions. You can bring in any class champions. The only nodes that you have to worry about there is the Bubble Shield that's behind my head, and Aggressive. Now, it also has the Counter Strike, but it really doesn't matter too much. The only side note there is if you do go down the middle, then you do have to contend with Warlock and later on Nick Fury as well. And those are not really the greatest encounters for all champions. However, if you do not have a lot of good tech champions and you do need to rely on more of a skill centric completion run here, then middle path is definitely a decent option. You do not want to go to the right side initially. When it comes to the boss, this boss is very, very easy. The only thing to keep in mind for this boss is the Bubble Shield node, which means that once you take 10 hits in a block, the 11th hit is going to be unblockable. So you just need to basically dex out of the way from the 11th hit, and then you can go back to parrying very easily. Now, this Spider Gwen, obviously she evades, but your standard evade counters can work, or just your parry heavy method as well. For most part, I think I just use Hulkbuster or I used Warlock and just parry heavy, get the job done. And even if you mess up, obviously just bring in another champion and do that. Obviously, we do have the Night Thrasher, we do have Nick Fury, and other skill champions who can deal with this matchup very easily. But that was about it for Chapter 2, and Chapter 3 is where it gets a bit more interesting. So Chapter 3 is for Cosmic and Science champions, and 3.1, we have 5 paths once again, so it starts with 3, 4, 4, then 5, 5, and the final one is 5 as well, I think. And yeah, so this is the layout of the map, and the easiest path here is quite undoubtedly this Psychic Taunt Life Transfer. Now, it does give additional benefits and bonuses to Cosmic Champions, so you do ideally want to bring in pretty much a full team of Cosmics, but because of that increased amount of damage you will be doing with Cosmic Champions, you can easily kind of like out life transfer the Psychic Taunt's damage, so you can bring in any Cosmic Champion and you can finish the entire lane with full health, use basically whoever you want. There's no really complicated encounters. I do believe there's like a Magneto on the lane, but that's just about it. So path in the middle, very, very easy. Also, this path on the right side is not too bad. It has Cosmic Wrath once again, and then you just have to deal with Enhanced Special 2 and 100% power gain. That is also a straightforward path, but yeah, ideally I just probably go down the middle. The boss is once again a carbon cutout copy from variant 5 Venom, where it's basically Enhanced Special 2, increased power gain Venom, and yeah, that is about it. Since this is Science and Cosmic Chapter, some of the best options here would be She-Hulk. She-Hulk is fantastic. However, I did manage to get in a solo with Immortal Hulk. That's who I typically used because pretty much get to level 2 and the fight was over, more or less. I have also used Cosmic Ghost Rider for this fight because you power lock him periodically, and that is super helpful. So those are kind of like the better options. Obviously, if you Quake, you can always bring in Quake, and you don't have too much to worry about here as well. So yeah, those are kind of like the better options, I think, for this champion. You can possibly try and go for Hyperion Stunlock as well. But yeah, that Venom is pretty much exactly the same thing we faced in Variant 5. So nothing too special. Now, final map. Final map has 5 paths once again. I I would have thought it would be 6, but no, it's 5. And this is the layout on it from left to right, and all converging into Miles Morales. And the easiest path is quite definitely, I think, this breakthrough one. It has some Spider-Verse nodes that I didn't even want to bother reading through again, because it also has breakthrough. And wherever there is breakthrough, it quite literally means that you can use any champion, and even Groot will eventually hit like Cosmic Ghost Rider. Because yeah, opponents start with some armor, but with every single hit, opponents lose the armor, and you can have any champion do absolutely crazy absurd numbers. Other than that, the only thing to combat there is the strike back, so you can either keep that in mind, or you can either just not throw your special attacks and just hit the opponents normally, because you don't have to, because you're going to be hitting super hard anyways. And then obviously there are champions who just bypass it, like Cosmic Ghost Rider. Whenever he would throw a special attack, if you align your judgments correctly, you would power lock the opponent, so and so forth. So it's a very, very easy lane to clear, and there weren't any too difficult opponents anyways. Another relatively decent quick options would be this Cosmic Wrath Stellar Pulse buffed up, where it's basically, yeah, Cosmic champions do more damage, because almost all Cosmic champions can relatively easily get 3 buffs, so that is a simple option as well. And even the middle one isn't too bad. The right side nodes are a bit harder, but yeah, my first suggestion is go to the left side. Now, the boss is actually straightforward, and I do think a lot of people overthink this fight, and then I have seen some videos like She-Hulk's perfect for it, this is perfect for it. Fact of the matter is, pretty much any champion can do it if it's ranked up appropriately. I personally used Hyperion for every single time I had to deal with this guy, and I one-shot him like every single path except one, I believe, when I made the mistake and left him at like 1% or 2%, something like that. The nodes, he does have enhanced special 1, so you do need to be able to evade that level 1. He has specialist 1, which means he will likely throw it. We have this hard knock life, which is very, very annoying, which again, it's just a frustrating node. I hate it. Every time you parry, you get disorient, so you will have some disorient pretty much throughout the entire fight on you because of the flux dispersal, so you do need to land in plenty of heavy attacks. And this fight definitely looks a lot worse than it is, because people always think, oh, I need to counter that evade. How do I counter that evade? But I said earlier that I just used Hyperion, and what I did with Hyperion is I just didn't throw special attacks, and you can do exactly the same thing with any champion. Just don't throw special attacks. The guy will have 5 evades total, and that's it. Bait out those 5 evades, don't use special attacks, and job's done. He's never gonna wait, and then all of a sudden he transforms into an Iron Patriot with slightly trickier to evade special 1. And occasionally you do need to drop a heavy attack to get rid of flux dispersal charges. So you can literally use any champion for this fight. My personal preference was Hyperion, as I said. I know people will inevitably end up quaking this guy. Sure, why not? I've seen She-Hulk being used, sure. But the truth is, you can just use any champion. Just don't throw specials. And that's about it. And that is it for the completion run video. It is a bit longer than I hoped it would be, but hey. Let me know if you have any more questions, and yeah, exploration videos will be coming to the channel soon. See you guys. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about